Hello everyone, it's great to see you all. Welcome to the Viterbi Alumni and Industry Spotlight panel. My name is Diane Yoon. I'm a career advisor in the Viterbi for Connections office located just down the hall in room 218. So our office puts on this event, which is offered every month throughout the academic year. Each month we feature a different academic department and bring back alumni or industry professionals related to the major being highlighted. Tonight we're featuring Industrial and Systems Engineering. This event is for all majors, so even if you're not ISE, you'll still get a lot out of it. And to hear from our panelists how they navigate their time in college, as well as how they made the transition to post-college life. We have a great panel tonight of alumni that majored in ISE, representing a wide range of industries that will be sharing with you why they chose their major and how it helped them with what they're currently doing professionally. So tonight's an opportunity to get your questions answered about career options related to ISE or specific questions related to their experiences. So after the panelists introduce themselves, it will be an open Q&A opportunity to get your questions answered. So there's no formal format. It'll be mainly a time of students asking your questions. So for the panelist introductions, I'm going to have you just state your name, where you're currently at, also what you studied here as a student, and also things that you were involved with while you were a student here at USC. So I'll have you start, or if you can go ahead first.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Spencer. I graduated in 2014. I'm currently what's called a private equity associate at a firm in Orange County called the Compass Group. We invest in controlling positions in industrial and consumer businesses. So you guys have ever heard of the company Camelback? You know, that was one of our portfolio companies, or maybe Ergo Baby, Sterno, Camelback, a bunch of other consumer assets, and a whole bunch of industrial firms you've never heard of, but is very sort of relevant in the context of industrial systems engineering and sort of how we think about making these businesses operate more efficiently, or sort of think about strategies to drive sort of growth strategies. So that's where I'm at now. Things I was involved in on campus. So I started a student organization called Startup Equinox. I don't think it's here anymore, unfortunately, but it was like an entrepreneurship organization. I think Spark SC is kind of the sort of derivative of that now. But yeah, that's me. So great. Thanks. Happy to be here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Cool. Hi guys. My name is Caroline. I just graduated from USC in May, so super fresh. It's crazy to think about it. I'm currently working at EY as a technology consultant, focused on cybersecurity and data protection. While I was in USC, I was involved in IISE, so that's, I'm not sure whether you guys know, but it's one, like, I think it's the only student organization in USC for ISE student. So I highly encourage you guys to join or just go to their events to just check out what kind of things they have there. Yeah, also very happy to be here, and I'm willing to answer any question you guys have.
Hi guys, I'm Lena. I currently work at the Walt Disney Company. I am a senior manager of product development for an app called Movies Anywhere. For those of you who don't know what Movies Anywhere is, it's a movie locker app that is funded by all 5 studios actually. So even though I work for Disney, our app is funded by Disney, Fox, Warner Brothers, Sony, and Universal. So go download the app, bring your movies into your locker. We're actually having a free 3-movie offer right now. So if you sign up and you link your account, you can get 3 free movies. Side note. But I oversee product development for all of the mobile apps, iOS, Android, the web apps, and all of our 10-foot or TV apps. So the Roku, Apple TV, and a lot of what I learned in ISE applies to what I do now, and we can get into that a little bit later. But when I was at USC, I was in Women in Engineering and also the Hillel group.
Hi y'all, my name is Will Taylor. I graduated in 05. What did I do here on campus, right? I was in a fraternity. It's also no longer here on campus. I was a part of the Interfraternity Council Executive Committee a little bit. I was involved in a group called Pepsters, which I believe is now called Class of 47, 40 something. Does that sound right? Does anyone know what that is? It's a student group out of the Whitney Alumni House.
The what?
The Alumni House. There's a very small 2-story white building next to the Admission Center. That was the original USC. Like that, when USC was founded, that was the entire campus. So now the Alumni Association has run out of there, and when they needed students for events, they drew from this group. So I ran that. It's mostly a way to meet sorority girls. I was also a tour guide for 3 years, which came in handy when I was looking for a new job a couple of years ago. I'll tell more about that later. That's it from here.
You also received your MBA, right?
Yes. I was going chronologically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got my MBA a few years ago at Anderson at UCLA. Sorry. I can answer any questions about that. And Spencer, you got a master's in financial engineering.
That's right.
So yeah, you can answer questions about that. I started out in aerospace. Spent 6 years there. First at Gulfstream, building private jets. I might still be able to get you a discount on one. Then I went to a parts manufacturer called Eaton Corporation. We went from building 20 airplanes a year to 1,000 parts a month. And then I got a call from a recruiter that really changed my life and moved to healthcare. So for the last 8 years, I've been at UCLA Health, deploying lean manufacturing concepts in the hospital. So we are helping clinicians save lives better. I've spent about half my time running projects, about half my time actually educating inside the hospital. So I've been teaching doctors, nurses, staff how to perform lean projects, and I do some guest lecturing at the School of Public Health and at the School of Medicine, and a couple of things. Sorry, that was long.
Oh, no, great. No, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. I'm going to start us off by asking each of you the same questions. Afterwards, it will be an open time for students to ask your questions. So they can be general questions to all the panelists or specific questions to individual panelists. So I'd like to ask you to describe your career journey, how and what led to what you're currently doing now. So we can start off with Spencer.
Sure. So after I left SC, well, so just to clarify, so I finished in 2014 my ISE degree, and then I did a Master's in Financial Engineering at SC as well, just the +1 program. So after I finished that, I was an investment banker at Bank of America Merrill Lynch for 2 years in what's called the Financial Sponsors Group, where I was doing effectively private equity coverage, for like sort of big mega funds and helping them secure financing for their egregious LBOs. If anyone knows that leveraged buyouts, it's the purchase of, it's this idea where you can buy a business, saddle it with a lot of debt, and then pay down the debt with the cash flows. And at the end of the day, you have a bigger piece of the equity, and you sell it, and you'll make a lot of money. There may be some operational improvements and some other strategic directions, decisions you make along the way. But so I was doing sort of advisory work for that industry, and I loved it, and I wanted to get more involved. I think it's a really intellectually satisfying thing, right? To sort of be an investor, but not just in the public markets, to take full control of the business and sort of have a say in the strategic direction. But so did 2 years at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and then recruiter reached out and opportunity to join the firm I'm at now, and that's how I got here. It's not I think that I'm relative to the rest of the panel. I think that I probably use my ISE degree a little bit less from a technical perspective, but I think that ISEs are really in a unique sort of position to go into the finance world, in particular private equity, because we think about these concepts all the time, lean manufacturing, and I think that even just being aware of those things, Six Sigma, while you may not be the person who's sort of implementing these projects, you're the ones, that are working with the COOs of these businesses and saying, hey, you thought about this, right? So that's kind of that's where I use it. But also it's just you get a any engineering degree you get a sort of comfort with math, which is important anywhere. So that's my thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I literally just graduated a few months ago, but I interned. So during my between junior year and senior year, I interned at UI for technology consulting, and then I loved it. So I just returned as a full-time and started in late July. So I'm kind of with the firm for about a little bit more than 3 months. It has been a great time at firm, like currently at least. Cool client, and then so I focus on cybersecurity, but honestly, I knew nothing before I started. I was like, why am I aligned with cyber? Because at EY, people, they will, the recruiter, they look at your resume, they will decide which domain they want to put you in. Actually, I interned in a different domain, but somehow I got aligned with cyber when I started full-time. But just surprisingly, I really loved it after I actually got in. I actually complained at the beginning. I was like, I'm not that techie, I don't know everything about cyber, all those stuff. But I surprised myself. I really like it. And also for ISE, because it's so broad, what you learn for now, you probably don't think it seems helpful or useful at all. And it's probably not. But after getting to work, sometimes, so it's not related to what I learned, but sometimes I will just find out, oh, you know what, I think I touched a little bit about this at school. So for example, a small example is I was doing some data protection work for a huge tech company. And then the client was like, oh, can we have a data flow diagram for this business process? And everyone on my team, they are in privacy. So a lot of them are JD. So they know nothing about data flow chart. And I was like, hey, you know what? I know. I learned VCO. I learned all those stuff, even though I'm not good at it. So I just took a shot. And then, so I would impress my senior manager. So it's just wonderful that sometimes the little thing you learn at school, it just turns out to be kind of like a huge thing at work.
So I actually graduated in 2011, and when I was graduating, I was thinking to myself, what do I want to do? I can basically do anything, and I was applying for jobs all over the place. When I was an ISE major, we had different tracks, and I was part of the information systems and operations management track. I don't know if they still have those, but that I felt was really great because that made me understand I do want to work in some sort of managerial position, and I do want to be in tech, but I had no idea what my role was going to be in tech. So I got hired by Accenture when I graduated, which was nice because I went into tech consulting as well, so very similar. And I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, so one of my earlier clients was Disney. And I got really lucky because they sent me all over the place. They sent me to Walt Disney World to do some projects there. Then I was back in LA, in Burbank, doing a couple of projects here. So I spanned from doing data center migrations to being a project manager. And there was this 1 year where I was traveling to Orlando a ton, and I would travel every Thursday and Sunday to Thursday, really tiring. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Put me on a project in LA, please. So I spoke to my senior manager. He's like, all right, we're going to bring you back to LA. There's this app called Disney Movies Anywhere, and they're looking for a quality assurance lead to kind of be the liaison between our offshore team and here. And I was like, all right, cool, sure, I'll take it. Whatever gets me back in LA because I don't want to travel anymore. I started that role, and it was really interesting because quality assurance is something that we learned a lot about in ISE, but I wasn't passionate about it. I was very passionate about the user and what the user wanted out of our app. And I would talk to somebody called the product manager because they were responsible for writing down user stories and new features, designing them, bringing them to life, doing customer research, figuring out what does the customer actually want? How are they going to use it? What is the function of this specific feature going to be? How do we make their lives easier? Let them get to their goal of watching a movie or enjoying content faster. And I got very close to this product manager, and she's like, you have great problem solving skills. You understand the user. Do you want to be on the product team? I was like, sure. Why not? So I got very lucky. They hired me full time at Disney from Accenture. So they pulled me on from being a contractor at the time to being a full time employee at Disney. And at the time I switched over, they also were thinking about this new app called Movies Anywhere. So they're like, do you want to lead the force on the product team? And I was like, sure. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I'm learning, and sure, I'll do it. And looking back at ISE, there was this one course I took. I think it was called Interface Design. And the one thing I remember from that course is making the interface of anything that you're using as easy to understand for the user as possible. And that's what I think of my role constantly. Not only, I mean, I'm interfacing with engineers all the time. I'm telling them what they need to build. So my role as a product manager is I think of the features. I work with my design team to figure out how it's going to look and how it's going to work. And then I work with my engineers to build it. In ISE, that's, I took a C++ course, and that helped me understand how to communicate with my engineers on a day-to-day basis. If I didn't have that knowledge, I wouldn't be able to, get the point across to them or even understand what they would be talking about. Like, they tell me, I was like, this is going to take me 10 days. And sometimes I have to challenge them. I'm like, really? Like, you can't do it faster? Like, I remember. So I think ISE really helped me in, the soft skills and the hard skills, like, the engineering part of things, the developing part of things. But in addition to all of that, I think overall what I really gained was problem solving skills, which I use on a daily basis. And I have colleagues that, were business majors or, other types of majors, and they don't have the same problem solving skills that we do. I think day in and day out, we're learning how to, with our math skills or with, any physics class that you take, you're constantly learning to solve difficult problems, how to make things better, more efficient. And that is what I do on a daily basis. I make processes better. I am working with my team to make builds go out faster. So if you take those skills that you're learning now, you can basically apply it to anything that you want to do. But I know apps is big, so if that is your passion, there is a path to get there.
I probably just echo a lot of what you said in terms of kind of those skills applying broadly. So like I said, I was kind of a lean engineer at Gulfstream, and immediately you're plopped right in, working with the mechanics and the engineers who are designing the plane. And there's a ton of value in being able to talk to everybody else. The quick show of hands, who here is already in ISE? Okay, most of you, good. And I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but if anyone's had a good way or developed a good way of explaining what ISE is to your family and friends, I'd love to hear it. Anyone want to take a shot at it? Awesome, thank you. What's your name?
Kristen?
Kristen? Okay.
I just kind of keep it like a one-liner because
Sure.
I just like to make things better, more efficient.
Okay.
That's all I say. That's what I say.
That's a great way to summarize it. Yeah.
Michael, I would say implementing systems to solve problems.
Okay. Solving problems. I go, and I've been doing this for a little while, longer than y'all have, but, and I could be completely wrong. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, but the way I describe our major, because there are almost no engineers at all in healthcare. very few. Some doctors were engineers before becoming doctors, but they didn't really count themselves as engineers. So they just see me and they see engineer. And when I try to describe our specific kind of engineering, I tell them, you imagine you've got your mechanical engineer. They're going to learn, how to design, products, design parts. You've got the aerospace engineer who's, looking at like the drag coefficient of winds that goes over the leading edge of an airplane. You've got the electrical engineer designing the circuitry and how everything's going to fit inside the aircraft. And those silos develop over time because as knowledge gets deeper, you have to specialize. But let's say you're starting a car assembly plant from the ground up. Someone's got to decide what goes where and how many parts we're building here in order to build this many cars on the other side. And so our specialty, our major, grew up out of the need to see the big picture. And being able to see the big picture and also talk to everyone else kind of puts us as the spider in the middle of the spider web. And that makes you incredibly valuable in wherever you're going to go. We've developed, software in healthcare, and they're like, well, you like data, right? You can talk to engineers. Okay, great, go do that. We've had doctors in our lean classes say, this is great. How come they didn't teach us to us in med school? And the thing is, Brian, my mentee here, Brian, we have everybody. You're famous now. He was talking about the challenge of trying to apply for internships because our skill set is so broad, and I think that you can either see that as a challenge or as kind of a blessing and kind of run with it and go do whatever you want to, because we're trained to see value, and that's what everybody wants. That's what Spencer's organizations are looking for, is who can create value the cheapest. You're looking for how to create value for the customers who need that with your app. 3 free movies. So I think for those of you who are not in ISE, this is a great place to be in. And it's great to hear it growing too. My freshman year, there were 9 ISE in the class of 2005. We grew, I think there were 40 by the time we graduated, and ranked to 50 in your freshman class.
Around there.
Wow. Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
There were 20 of us the first week.
20, and you grew that
There's
much?
only 20 like right now for freshmen too.
Is that for people go to the first class of bio or chem day?
They really don't want it. Yeah. Right. Great.
Hey, no, it was great to hear all your what led you to what you're currently doing, especially like how ISE has influenced that, what you learned in your time here. So now we can have you ask questions. So just if you have questions, raise your hand and call you.
So, like, right now, I'm an engineer, but I don't know where to start applying for internships and, like, how to go from there. Like, I talk to people, I got into job fairs, but, like, how do you exactly go from, like, engineering career to internship? Like, how did you guys get your first internship?
I'll start because I went from, and I'm not sure what your ambitions are. Maybe you're trying to test the waters and figure it out. But I kind of was trying to make the jump to finance, which was a weird one, a little bit. I mean, I think that my first internship was, well, I mean, I don't know what you call my first internship. I did the Tsinghua program my first summer. I don't know if that's still around. I think it is. Yeah, it's a phenomenal program. It's unreal. That wasn't really an internship. It was more of a lab thing. But my first actual internship was in finance, working for like a small private equity firm, and I had to really sort of make that sell a little bit. That hey, listen, like I don't have the finance skill set, but I have the sort of problem solving skill set, and it's very transferable, and I can assure you I'm a quick learner. But I think I just used the portals, the USC portal, which was super helpful, and I think nowadays, like there's far more resources, LinkedIn and and various other things. Sorry, I don't think the answer was very helpful. I apologize. But that's
That's a great plug for our Viterbi Gateway job portal.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah.
Wait, don't you do this full time? This is what you do, right? Come see you, right? Yeah. There you go. Office hours. Yeah.
Connections. We help students all the time with providing information, guiding you through the application process for internships and full-time jobs.
But I think Spencer hit the nail on the head. Like, he had an end state in mind. He knew he wanted to work in finance. Put a word in your mouth, but
No, that's fine. No, you're right.
And so you have to have a goal. It doesn't necessarily need to be like the right industry that you want to work in. You know, over the 40 years of your career. Like, I was in my third company by the time I was 28, and vastly different industries. But you need to have some sort of goal. Like, maybe it's just manufacturing, or maybe you know you want to work at Disney because it's a fantastic name in your resume, and no matter what you do at Disney, it's going to look good, which is true. You will do anything at Disney, and people will ask you about it. Right.
But I also interned at Disney, so.
There you go. So, like, anytime you're solving a problem, you can't define your problem without where you want to be. So pick anything and use that as the goal.
And I would say talk to other people in your major. So the way I got my internship was I had a friend that was a year above me actually, but he had interned at Disney the summer before I was interning there, and we were in class together, and he did a presentation on something that he had done at Disney, and I went up to him and I was like, hey, like, this sounds really cool. Do you think I can talk to the recruiter that you talked to? Because I'd like an internship there next summer. And I had one interview, I think that was 20 minutes with the recruiter because he put in a good word for me, and then I was there. So talk to your friends, anybody in any major that is maybe a year ahead of you, because I think a lot of people have, internships at places and maybe they can get you in. So use your resources, use the people around you, cold call on LinkedIn. I have a lot of people that do that to me today, and a lot of times I interview them for jobs. So definitely make use of all of your resources.
Yeah, I agree. Because a lot of just to add on that, a lot of company, they like people to refer. So I actually refer one of my friends to EY, and he just got his offer. So friends is definitely a way, and also there are a lot of different ways to get a job. There are different conferences, if you're aware, like different type. So for me, I attended a conference called Women in Technology Consulting, and that's a conference EY held earlier. And then so I kind of got my job through that. So I skipped my first round interview on campus. I just go directly into the final round, and it was very easy. So I would say there are a lot of different opportunities around, like even just on campus. So definitely just go, like, reach out to people and then see what opportunity there. But again, USC has a great resources. Like I use Connect USC a lot to get my internship stuff. So it's definitely helpful, and also involved on campus. Join all those organizations, because when you interview with people, honestly, they're very interesting. They definitely interested in your past internship experience, but they kind of more interested in like your experience like in college. So if you're talking about some cool stuff you're in, for example, I was in figure skating club because I've been figure skate since I was 6. So when I talk to recruiter, even though I have a whole list of internship, and then they literally like skate everything into the last row, say, "Oh wow, you can figure skate?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like, that's so cool. Why you don't talk about it at the beginning? I was like, because it's not very relevant. But you know what? That's something kind of catch the recruiter's eyes and say, like, actually have a nice conversation with you.
For those of you who went to graduate school, what made it attractive to pursue a graduate degree, and how has it added value to your life and what you do?
Sure, I'll start. I mean, I think for me, it seemed like a decent opportunity at the time, given the +1 program. You kind of avoid the GRE and apply, just get a couple of recommendations. You're doing pretty well, and you get in. It seemed easy enough, and my goodness, at 22, I had a master's. Wow, crazy. I think that what was, I think for me, because I was trying to transition to finance, doing something like financial engineering, which, because everyone did masters in finance, and that was super boring, and that would be too easy. I knew the engineering piece as well, so I felt like that was kind of a good degree to have that sort of would prop up my resume in the industry a bit. But frankly, there's almost no overlap in what I do now to what I studied then, because it was remarkably technical. It was crazy. It was intellectually satisfying. But I'm not sure that it's adding. I'm thinking about my MBA as well, and I've taken the GMAT. I've done that whole thing, and I'm actually applying for school right now, which is not the most fun thing on the planet. But so I'll let you know after that. But I think my master's in financial engineering is marginally relevant to what I do right now, but intellectually enriching, certainly. Okay. Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah.
I got an MBA, and I got the fully employed MBA at UCLA, where you go at night for 3 years instead of full-time for 2. And there are a couple of reasons for that. For choosing that first, the full-time program, one, I really like my job. I also getting paid. Didn't want to give that up. And spreading it over 3 years made it easier to pay for, write off my taxes, which I guess I have to worry about right now, but it will hit you at some point. I really enjoyed it for that reason, and being able to kind of maintain what I was currently doing. So don't think that if you can't fathom quitting for 2 years to get a full-time MBA, it's out of reach. I applied because after 2 jobs in manufacturing, I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay in aerospace, and the leadership of my organization then was not helping me grow anything, put it politely. And so I thought to myself, you know what? If there's any chance of getting an MBA in my future, I might as well do it sooner than later, because I have mentors tell me that the longer you wait, just personally, the harder it's going to be. And so I applied to Anderson, and at one of the events, one of the director of admissions said, when you're applying, I want to hear from you how you're going to take this MBA and do great things with it. How does this fit in your plan? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing with this? And I'm sitting here thinking, I have no idea. I just want to get a better job. And literally, as I was thinking that in my head, he said, and if you just want to get a better paycheck, honestly, go to the Career Center, they'll split up your resume, and we'll send you on your way, because the program might not be for you. So, well, I'm going to apply anyway. And then I didn't get in. In part because I didn't even have a good reason besides I want to do my MBA before I have kids. But 6 months later, I got the job at the UCLA hospital. Spent there a year kind of getting my feet under myself, and seeing how I was really prepared for what I was doing currently because of ISE here at Viterbi. But I knew that in talking to people who were where I wanted to be in the future, and talking to people who had gotten other degrees outside of kind of the manufacturing context, that there was a lot that I'd missed in terms of just kind of some of the financial awareness. I understood all the acronyms that Spencer said earlier. The marketing, just the way that folks who have MBAs or have kind of a business background think. And so with that in mind, I reapplied, had a good sense of where the MBA would take me in healthcare and how I would use it to continue to improve healthcare delivery. that and a recommendation letter from the CEO of the hospital, and all of a sudden I
So this is a specific question for you. I'm actually interested in going straight to healthcare or as straight as possible to healthcare after ISE. What was your transition like from corporate to medical? And what advice would you have for someone who's looking to do the same, a little bit less serendipitously?
Sure. And I got lucky. I didn't know that this role existed in healthcare until I got a phone call from the recruiter. The transition was a little rough in that manufacturing is very much a male-dominated industry. And kind of a locker room mentality has taken on a bit of a weird context in the last 2 years. But prior to that, I would have referred to it as kind of a locker room mentality because it was mostly men on the shop floor, in the engineering department, and going into healthcare, it's a very female-driven environment. The biggest workforce in the hospital is going to be your nursing group. The overwhelming majority of nurses are women, and that has a really big effect on the culture of the organization. And so I didn't fully appreciate it for a while. And so, not that I was snapping wet towels at people or anything, but in how to give feedback, how to receive feedback, understanding how to work with your peers. It took me a while to kind of break some bad habits. But I'm glad you asked the question about getting into healthcare because I asked my director on the way out any advice for these kids, and he said, do anything you can, just get in the hospital. The great thing about healthcare is, especially in an academic medical setting, there's almost an expectation that you will be, looking down the career ladder to help give people opportunities. Most people that want to be doctors have decided by the time they're in middle school or high school, and so there are really good pathways to volunteer, just spend time in the hospital, even as an 18-year-old. Like we've got teenagers running around, just literally checking to see people wash their hands before they go into rooms. Now, does that sound like the best way to spend your day? Probably not. It's really valuable to us, though. It's also a really valuable experience. You get to see different types of healthcare units, or nursing units, whether it's a med surge or an intensive care unit. You also get to meet a lot of people who can then provide kind of a pathway that y'all have been talking about getting those internships, understanding where the kind of positions are out there. So I would say go find a volunteer opportunity at a hospital if that's what you're doing, and they're out there.
So in terms of making hospitals more efficient, this would be
This being the degree.
So spending as much time in hospitals, interacting with doctors.
Absolutely. And I feel a little guilty because I've been taking a lot of airspace, so if we have more specific hospital questions, I can talk afterwards. So make it for some time.
I have a question for you in the middle. So the first thing is, why did you guys choose to go into consulting after an ISE undergrad? And then, have you ever used any ISE coursework in any of the projects you did as a tech consultant? And if not, what are some typical projects like that you guys have done?
Yeah. So I decided to go into consulting because, again, like I mentioned before, I knew I wanted to be in tech, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in tech. When I first graduated, I think project management was like this big, cool thing that a lot of people were doing out of ISE. And although I liked it, I didn't know what it was. So I wanted to learn more about it, and I knew consulting was a way to do that. And it also allows you to consider many different industries. So I know at Accenture, we have a huge group of people working in the healthcare industry, in media and entertainment. I mean, California is a lot of media and entertainment, but one of my roles was at Rockwell International, where, we did aerospace stuff. So if you're looking to figure out what industry you want to go into, consulting is a great place to start. Or if you're looking to see what kind of role you want to go into, it's also a great place to start. But in addition to that, the question you asked about coursework being relevant, very relevant. Like SQL, we took a database class. I still use that to this day, like pulling tables and from like a data collection perspective and figuring out how to manage the data. I don't have to bug my data team all the time. I can just do it myself. I think I even took a class on Excel. I think it was engineering economics that they taught you like pivot tables and like I use everything that I learned. C++, I developed a little bit in one of my roles as a consultant. So I'm constantly, I think there was an IOM class, operations management class that I took that taught like use cases or like user relationships between systems and users. So I think I use a lot of that all the time.
Yeah, I think she covered pretty much everything. Just to add on a little bit. So for me, I didn't know what is consulting at the beginning, and then I was thinking. So my first internship was in a law firm, and then I was into healthcare because I was pre-med major when I came to USC. I was thinking to do healthcare law or anything related about that, and then one day, one of my friends just dragged me to a info session, and Bain was here. So I was like, what is Bain? I don't even know this company. And then she's like, oh no, it's like a huge one, you should go. And then so she just dragged me. And then, so I went there. It's my first time like hear about all the consulting concept. And then I liked it. I was like, this seems really cool. You are actually making changes as a, even staff level, because you got involved in, you got to go to different type of industry, different kind of company, and you talk to people in higher management level. So I was like, this is really cool. So that's how I actually start to look into consulting, and then to actually get an internship, and then went to that conference I mentioned earlier. But in terms of the courses, yeah, she mentioned MySQL. It's helpful. I haven't used it yet, but it helped me a lot because my last client, we're trying to have a prepare a data inventory for the client. So it's very easy for me to understand the data element, what is the table, why some element looks different, like it looks different or looks similar. So it's kind of like very easy for me to understand the whole concept behind the thing I was actually doing. So I think that was definitely helpful. And it just in general, I took what is that? It's actually a business school class, but it's like required, I believe. But I forgot the name, but it's a sorry. Yes, thank you for that. The ISO class is helpful. They talk about all the digital like business, and then just some like interaction. Like something between business and technology and engineering. So I found that very helpful as well.
Thank you.
On the senior course, the senior design course, they like actually put you into a project with an actual company, and you learn a ton. So I would say that's very helpful too. Definitely.
I have a question for Lena. What opportunities do you see in the entertainment industry for IC majors, and what advice would you give for that?
There's a ton right now because everybody's obsessed with tech in the entertainment industry. So studios are actually making a change. A lot of them, because Netflix is in the business now. Netflix was a tech company that became a studio. Now the studios want to become tech companies. They're constantly looking to make things more efficient. So I worked at Studio Tech I'm still at Studio Tech now. My app is under Studio Tech, but they're constantly looking for ways to make really cool things for people that are making movies, whether it be a system that tracks scripts from when they're starting to be written to when they're completed, or different things like chairs that move whenever you're in the movie theater. We have a whole lab at Disney called the Technology Innovation Group, where they are responsible for looking at new cool technologies and bringing those things into the studio space, where not only for movie making, but post-production. So when people are going to the movies and watching them, or digital distribution, which is where I'm in, when the movies come through and you want your end user to be able to watch it digitally. But there's a ton right now. ISE really applies to tech, and everybody is looking to make things more efficient, make things better, faster, get things to their consumers faster, spend less time on set doing manual processes. They want to make everything quicker by creating a system to help those people out, and I think that's very relevant to ISE.
What about your respective jobs gives you a sense of fulfillment?
It's a great question. Yeah,
Mine's pretty easy. Like we're literally helping save lives. I mean, that's the thing. Roughly 250,000 people die every year in hospitals for preventable reasons, things that happen to them in hospitals. So let that sink in for a little bit. When we make mistakes, people die. So reducing infection rates, getting people out the door faster, discharging them more effectively so they're not readmitted later, all helps prolong lives, save lives, and that keeps me fulfilled at night in a way that delivering Bank of America's corporate jet a week early did not.
I would say I get a lot of really cool opportunities to work on like corporate citizenship projects, but one of the cool things we did in our app was build a feature for the low vision or blind, where when you go into a movie theater, you can use our app to sync to the theater's sound, and then the person that's low vision gets descriptive audio. So a good example is Good Dino. There's not a lot of words in that movie. It's a lot of actions, like the dinosaurs getting up and the dinosaurs sitting down and spraying water. So the app would actually allow the person that's low vision to hear about all the actions that are happening while they're happening. So just interfacing with those kinds of people and taking the opportunities that Disney gives to, fulfill my duty to, like the blind was at that point, or just anybody in the world that needs help. Even our app even goes to hospitals, which is pretty cool for kids that are sick and can't go to theaters. We have like a specific app that they can use to watch the movies while they're still in theaters. So if anytime you look anywhere within Disney specifically, there's a way to do something that will help you be more fulfilled. But on a daily basis, I mean, just seeing my team be, satisfied with the work they're doing at the end of the day, words of encouragement to my team makes me feel fulfilled because they're happy when they leave at the end of the day. Being a good manager and seeing a product that goes out there and millions of people are using, I think also gives me fulfillment.
That's sweet. For me, I guess, so I talked about data protection, all those stuff. So, like you put into a lot of information online for all kinds of apps, all kinds of websites. So it's just interesting to think about how I'm actually protecting all the information for millions of users in the back. And also I'm actually helping the company to help them to protect each individual, like all the users. So, and also in healthcare, we have a lot of cases in healthcare as well, because all those like information, personal data, you don't want people know, like your healthcare record like that, like just get those information easily. So it's just I just feel very satisfied every time I actually help a client to, you know, solve those problems and actually change the company.
So it's a phenomenal question. It's a really important one. I think that I have a less altruistic answer, but I think you know, as I've kind of drawn my career path, the key decisions that I've made have always been a function of sort of what's going to provide me with the most sort of intellectually satisfying experience. You know, where I'm a deeply curious person, and so you know, where can I, you know, where can that sort of curiosity be satisfied? And I think that in my industry, what's really fascinating is that I get to sort of look at companies in all sorts of various industries. I know everything about EPS manufacturing because we bought, you know, expanded polystyrene, which is, by the way, styrofoam essentially. It's not as bad for the environment as people think, but it's not great. It's still plastic. But we bought a business that, you know, is the largest manufacturer of that in the United States. You know, and then maybe we were looking at a business that makes carts for airports, right? And so I think that just having the opportunity to sort of dig in and view every day like a classroom, and I think that's how you outperform as well, right? I think that's where you find the things that other people aren't looking for, won't see. To sort of staying curious and digging a little deeper. So that's the answer. That's what satisfies me.
Thank you. I know that was kind of personal.
It was good. It was fantastic too.
No, that was a great question to actually end on. So I'm going to wrap up our time because it's already past 8 o'clock. I know we got to a late start, so I apologize for that. But our panelists are going to be sticking around for a little bit. So if you have questions that you want to ask them individually, feel free. So about 15 minutes, they'll stick around. Thank you again for coming this evening. I know it's a busy time with probably second midterms or just, you know, studying for classes and things like that. So hopefully this evening was informative. Hopefully it gave you a good, just good information. And was, I know I really appreciated hearing our panelists' insights. For those who are ISE majors, hopefully they confirm to stay within your major. And for those that are not, you know, just another major to consider. So I encourage you to also check out like the ISE department, talk to like their advisor as well if you're curious about looking into the major. So thanks again for coming tonight. Hope you all have a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks guys. Appreciate it.